support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Ravanelli coming alive again. Janino wants the ball played to him. Ravanelli spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast with Johnny, Dana and Tom. The Boro podcast that gives you all of your Boro Matchday chatter in a podcast. And well, a defeat to Bristol City sees Boro drop down to 9th in the Championship table, 4 points off the playoff places and 5 points off the automatics until a certain team plays this afternoon. Guys, one key takeout, as always. How are you feeling after the defeat against Bristol City yesterday? Dana, do you want to go first with your one key takeout?
Yeah, I think my key takeout this week is a rather worrying observation that for the first time, I think Michael Carrick is under pressure because he's copping a lot of criticism and a lot of the blame. And I feel like it's becoming evident that the credit that he banked up 2 seasons ago is wearing pretty thin amongst supporters. Last season, I think people gave him the benefit of the doubt because of the injury crisis and never felt like he ever had the best team or the best options at his disposal. But now, you look at the bench yesterday and that was very strong. But what I will say, and I'm sticking my neck out on the line because I've seen a lot of people basically thinking that Carrick is the one that's responsible. But I attribute the minority of the blame to Carrick and the majority of the blame at the players, because Michael Carrick can't play that ball that Isaiah Jones played for Caden Jackson that lost Boro the game against Derby. He can't legislate for Matt Clark and Senny Dieng bumping into each other against Portsmouth. He can't legislate for the mistakes that are being made. And yesterday as well, mistakes being made. Michael Carrick can't legislate for that. He's not the one that plays the ball around the corner. It's Hayden Hackney. He's not the one that plays that botched square ball to Aidan Morris. That's George Edmondson. So mistakes are being made and they're being made by the players, not by Carrick. So yeah, I don't feel as though Carrick should get the majority of the blame, although he will, because the buck always stops at the manager.
Well, we'll come on to the pressure side of things in just a little bit. But Tom, what was your one key takeout from the defeat to Bristol City?
I'm just getting bored of this season, to be honest. Already, it's only 10 games in, and I'm just like that San Andreas meme where it's like, oh shit, here we go again. Like, it's just getting to be fairly consistent pattern now in what we're seeing. I'm pretty sure Dana said it on the last podcast when we went down against Watford, and it was just, was it that one? No, it might have been that one. It might have been a different one, but it was just kind of that feeling that, right, that's it. We're not going to win this now. And that's how I felt yesterday. Like, we went 1 goal down, and I just thought, that's it now. And it's such a far cry from the season where Carrick came in, where we had the confidence that we could outscore everyone. We don't have that with this team at the moment. And for the first time for me, and this is tying into something Dana's just said there, I am starting to lose patience with Carrick a little bit. And it's not necessarily because of the individual mistakes, although for me, I would say that individual mistakes can come as a symptom of, the team not knowing what they're doing, and where managers start to fall off a little bit. We saw it under Wilder. We've seen it under countless managers before as well. Hopefully, Carrick can help iron those mistakes out and get us back on the right track as quickly as possible. But as Dana said, you look at the bench yesterday, it was a very strong bench. And I feel like in terms of squad selections, making some big decisions and being proactive with substitutions, we're not getting that from Carrick, and we need more of it to address certain situations. I think in one, I've seen us switch it up in a couple of games in recent memory, and it was Leicester last year, and we went 3 at the back and it worked, and then we continued on with that. And I'm not saying we need to switch it up for every game or anything like that, but we do need a different way of playing if something's going wrong. And I mean, as much as I'd massively prefer it that we had a plan A that worked 99% of the time and we didn't need to switch it up. I think with the options that we've got and all these players who can play in different positions and stuff, we need to be seeing more usage of the squad and just not seeing it at the moment. And it looks like the same stuff every week.
Well, I'm going to take on just the point what you mentioned there, Tom, around him. I can't remember which podcast it was on that day I mentioned it. It just feels like the same game 10 times over. So it's probably it's all podcasts have just merged into one at this point. And this is actually another rerun of a show we did 3 months ago. So on FYI, if no one's watching, you can probably switch off. But this is for my takeout. It's again like just it feels like a bit of a social experiment when you are 10 games in, you are seeing the same game, regardless if Boro win it or not. It is still those underlying problems where you do see that big individual error. Boro create plenty of chances. We miss that certain chance. We might give a big chance away and they'll go and capitalise it and score. We don't really give many chances away at all. I think that is something, if you're watching Boro and you watch the shape and you watch how we defend, we actually don't give much away at all. But then when we do give something away, it's going to be a really big risk. And that really big risk is down to one big individual error, like Dana, you alluded to there, Tom, that you're alluding to as well. So for me, it feels just right now you've got to do two things. One, you can't be your mistakes, and two, you've got to finish chances. And that's probably as simple as it can possibly get. And draw a lot of my pass. There you go. And that might help everything. There's a lot you can dissect. You can look at the numbers and paint a picture of where Mills were at, and I think it will probably summarise where Boro were at. But yeah, just gotta finish your chances a lot more and don't make many mistakes. But how easy is that to say in a game where we're just in a game, and it's very easy to say that on a podcast. But let's chat about the game because you've both alluded to a very strong bench yesterday, but Boro had an unchanged 11 to the side against Watford, where we got beat, and threw it away. But now Bristol City have 3 wins in a row against Boro. They are slowly becoming a very big bogey team.
They've always been a bogey team.
That's very true.
Always.
That is very, very true. I feel like I need to go back and really look at when was the last time we did the double over Bristol City. Maybe one for us to look away whilst I'm asking the questions. But the kind of topic one I wanted to look at it in different topics probably today because there's so many different trends after 10 games in. But how would you guys assess yesterday's performance in general? Do we think that the unchanged 11's the right decision as well? Keep it open. Who would like to take it? How would you guys assess it from yesterday?
Yeah, you know what? I thought Boro were good and playing well until the mistake that led to Anis Mehmeti's goal. And that's what's really frustrating. We can play good football and we can have the possession and we can have chances. Because in 15 minutes, I think we might have had 2 or 3 chances. There was Azaz's kind of cross-come shot, a last chance where he tries to bend it around the defender and ends up just the wrong side of Max O'Leary's post. And then Ben Doak had a chance that drew a save from Max O'Leary. But to be honest, as soon as Finn Azaz played that cross or shot or whatever it was, and it went wide and out for a goal kick, I knew exactly what was coming. I feared the inevitable that Bristol City would go down the other end and they would score. And that was 5 minutes into the game, by the way. Then when Latte Lath missed that chance, that was it. I was convinced. I just knew that I'd turn my head to the right-hand side and be watching a Bristol City player wheeling away to celebrate. That's how the script goes. That's just what Boro are right now. They're a team that get their chances, squander them, then concede, and then after that, nothing. Because what I want to say is that Boro, people will say Boro create chances and they miss them, and that's true. But it's a blanket statement. If we peel the layers off, Boro usually, this is what they do. They create about 2 good chances, don't convert them, Then we concede, and after that, we create nothing. Like, I only remember Bergzog's snapshot volley in the second half. Ben Doak might have had a chance, but I can't fully remember. There's nothing after we concede that makes me think, yeah, really dominant. We've got all the possession. We do nothing with it. We can't break down a low block. Michael Carrick put loads of players on yesterday. He kept on Ben Doak. He put on Riley McGree. He put on Force, Conway, Bergzog. Just shot all these players on the pitch, right? Nothing, like it didn't have a positive impact. And so that's making me think, okay, how to break down a low block, put all your best players on the pitch. It still doesn't work. I mean, that's one game, to be fair, so it's not a big sample size. But yeah, we create chances. We don't score them. Then we concede. Then we create nothing. That's just how it goes. And that's how it went yesterday. And really, we shouldn't be surprised that happened. Guy next to me on the end of the next row let out the biggest, like, just frustrated scream I have ever heard. It just went on forever. And I feel his pain. He had his head in his hands. That was me. Because why are we still doing it? Why is this still happening? It's really frustrating. And yeah, like, fair play at Bristol City. They had the ruthlessness. They weren't the better team in terms of possession dominance or whatever, but they were the better team in terms of the bread and butter of football, putting the ball in the back of the net, and then they defended well. So it's not the first time we've seen that script, that blueprint, and it won't be the last time that we see it either, unfortunately.
Yeah, and look, I really hope that guy's making out that big scream. Then it actually wasn't like a medical emergency, and you're just like, oh god, that guy's really frustrated. He's like, ah, my appendix, like this.
God, it would be a medical emergency. It will be a medical emergency soon with Boro the way that we're going. Bloody hell!
No, it really is. And like, there's so much to be like frustrated about. And I said on TikTok yesterday, like, it just feels like the same script over and over again. I feel like I'd be repeating you from what your points were saying there, Dean. It's so frustrating, I think, to see us miss those two chances, but those two chances are massive chances where you should be putting it away. That's the problem, and a goal in this like type of game changes the whole complex of the match. I think if Boro score with that like left chance, you're talking like a 3 or 4-0 route, because there was nothing happening in that game to suggest that Bristol City would have caused Boro some problems. It was going to come from an individual mistake, and that's just biding your time, waiting for the bad pass to happen, capitalise it, and getting your shot away and scoring. And when it did happen, Boro became very desperate. And when you look at Boro's touch mapping and around the box, and you probably look at Middlesbrough's touches across the season so far, it is very horseshoey around that box. Hence why you've got the most touches in the box, and hence why you can't break a team down. And it shows that you're a bit too slow in those certain areas. But Tom, the unchanged 11 part, do you think that was kind of like the right decision from Carrick to do that? Because against Watford, we played really well until like last 20 minutes, and then we pissed that away, and then now we just got another defeat in our hands. But do you think it was the right decision to have an unchanged 11?
You know what? When I saw the team come through before the game, I just kind of looked at it and thought, yeah, it's about as I expected. Excited to see it, and excited to see Hamilton starting at the Riverside and stuff. In hindsight, I don't think so. There are a few changes I would have made personally, and it would have been laugh out for Force or Conway. Probably Conway, because when's it never written for someone to score against their old club? Hamilton out for McGree and Edmondson out for Clark. And I know that it's maybe not going to be popular ideas or popular decisions for what should have been done. My thinking is really put the players in who are best for that formation and our best players in those positions. Edmondson's done great for us since he's come in, don't get me wrong. But if everyone's fit at centre-back, he is 4th or 5th choice for me. It is Clark, Vandenberg and Lenihan in front of him. And I would have Clark in that left centre-back role just to open up the left-hand side of the pitch. McGree over Hamilton, I think, is a no-brainer. obviously there is the argument there that he did play midweek. I mean, Morris played as well, still got the start. Slightly longer flight for McGree. I'm taking that into account as well, but I'd much rather see McGree on the left-hand side, and then Hamilton kind of coming in and making an impact. Laugh at the moment, I think he needs taken out the squad for his own good. Not the squad entirely, but out of the starting 11 for his own good. Yesterday, that chance that he missed is just another prime example of what we've highlighted before, where you give him too much time to think, and he's probably going to make the wrong decision. And for me, I think he's been struggling since he missed the penalty against Heerenveen. And don't get me wrong, he's had chances since then. But I think it's one of those classic scenarios, and we've all seen it. Everyone's going to, everyone listening to this who has played football 5-a-side, 7-a-side, anything like that has seen this. There's that player who's absolutely mint, scores every game. There'll be that one game where he drags a shot wide, the first shot, and then another one will be blocked, and then another one will be saved, and he gets more and more into his own head. And the harder he tries, the more nothing's going to go in, and he gets more and more in his own head. And I think that's the case with Latte-Laff. I think he was on such a high after last season, misses the penalty against Heerenveen, and it's just kind of like an oh shit moment for him. Very brave the next week, taking the penalty against Swansea and gets the goal, and you're just thinking, hopefully that's it. That's that put to bed, really. And he's had chances since then that he really should have scored, and he hasn't done. There's been a couple, say like the header against West Brom, for example, really unlucky. But it does play into that mental thing of what do I have to do to score? Whereas I think when you've got Conway and Force on the bench who are more composed finishers, I'd have trusted either one of those to take that chance yesterday. But Latte-Laff, not so much in that scenario. So I think he could just do with a spell out. Just you bring him on for half hour at the end, and hopefully get a goal, get his confidence back, and then you put him in the starting 11 more and more often. But I think the longer it goes on, the more and more we would see stuff like this, where he gets golden opportunities, but too much time to think about it, gets in his own head and misses. And I think this is just where it comes down to Carrick needs to use the squad that we've got assembled. Because as we've said, that was a very strong bench yesterday. And in my opinion, this is one of the strongest squads that we've had. Well, maybe discounting the season where we got to the playoffs, strongest squads in terms of depth that we've had for years. And it needs utilising right this season. And for me, there just are certain elements where we need to be utilising the squad more. And we're not doing that at the moment.
See, I'm going to back Latte-Laff because I do feel like he's been more unlucky than he's been like crap. And the thing is, I think we have to have a conversation around him because I think the perception of him has changed because of the purple patch, the very substantial purple patch that he had towards the back end of last season. But at St. Gallen, Latte-Laff scored 2 goals in his first 5 games, which is neither good or bad, really. He then endured a pretty dry spell, scoring only 1 in his next 10 games. Of his 16 goals that season for St. Gallen, 38% of them came within the final 4 games of that season. There were 2 separate braces in and amongst that. So my question is he the type of striker to endure a barren spell and then just explode and go on a purple patch again? Boro last season, he was inconsistent in front of goal the first half of the campaign, and there was a feeling that he could have scored more, that he was somewhat unreliable in front of goal when he got his chances. Then, in the latter months, 11 goals in 16 games. I don't think Latte-Laff is that far away from it clicking again. And then with a goal or 2, the narrative probably does change there for at least a little bit. So I think we stick with him. For how long, I don't know. And I know that people want him dropped because, as you mentioned quite rightly, Tom, you've got Force and Conway waiting in the wings there. Is Force even considered by Carrick a striker? Personally, I don't think so. I know we've got a lot of depth options at right mid, but when push came to shove last season, like Carrick didn't really. I think he maybe played him once that I can remember as a centre forward, and I don't even think it was from the start. So, like for me, Marcus Forss isn't a striker anymore; he's a right midfielder. Whether it's right or wrong, that's a different question. That's how I think Carrick sees it. So I don't think he's an option there. I think it's between Conway and Bergzorg. And out of the two, you go with Conway. So even regardless of whether Marcus Forss is a right midfielder or a striker, you've still got a good striker there in Tommy Conway. So yeah, with Latte Lath, I think we might need to consider whether he's just a streaky striker and that this is him. He'll go through a really barren run that'll get people questioning his place in the team, but then he'll just explode into life. And I don't feel like he's that far away from exploding into life personally.
I suppose the only thing is, though, like in a season where expectations have been quite high, how much do you want to stick with a striker who is on a barren run when you've got other options there? And for me, that's an area where you use the squad, and like I said, you start bringing Latte-Lath off the bench, hoping he can get a goal. Because I agree that he's a streaky striker, and he will go through these kind of purple patches of form. And I think the end of last season, when he was scoring all those goals, there were prime examples of a striker who was in good form because he didn't have to think too much about anything he was doing. He just did it. And now he's thinking too much. So it's like, do you take him out and put another option in to help us through this period and pick up points? Because it's fine trying to get a striker back on form, and this is probably exactly what we would have done last season when he was our only option. But when you got the league table to worry about, and 2 or 3 other options at striker, is it something you can persist with until he starts working? And
I will say,
well, I was just going to add as well, his work for the team during this period has been fantastic, and I don't want to come across like I'm questioning that at all. We had that question a couple of weeks ago on our last podcast. Does it look like his head's turned and stuff like that? No, it doesn't. He is working as hard as he can, but it might be one of the things where you need to take him out so he can get his goal scoring form back, and we might have to slightly change our approach up front, probably to a more slower approach. But we also there's other underlying issues as well up front as to why we're not scoring goals, and we'll probably get into this a little bit later on. But Mado pointed out on the radio yesterday in the fact that we only have Latte-Lath in the box for some crosses, and that as well is not fair on him as a striker because he's being expected to do a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say there, it isn't just Emmanuel Latte-Lath either that is responsible for Boro's goal scoring drought. Do you want to know who in the Boro squad has the most shots at goal this season? Does anyone want to give that a guess?
Finazaz, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Finazaz has 32 shots on goal. Latte-Lath has 25. And shots on target, Finazaz has 12, sorry. So, yeah, I mean, there's other players that I think are responsible for this. It's a whole team thing. But obviously, with Latte-Lath leading the line, being the number 9, and obviously, as Tom alluded to, having that very recognised purple patch at the end of last season, the expectations get cranked up even further, and it was never sustainable, that purple patch. And I'm not suggesting that anyone thought it was, but maybe this is kind of just regressing to the mean again, and this is kind of just what Latte-Lath is basically.
Yeah, I think for Latte-Lath, there's a couple of things in there. One is, what would it take? I think one for you, Dana, maybe. So what would it take for him to be dropped in the squad? Not squad, team. Like, because I'm put squad in my mouth. But I mean, what would it take? I think, but for look at it right now, I agree with it. Zaz has had more shots, but the person who's underperforming most in front of goal is Latte-Lath by a big chunk at the moment. About 3, isn't it? Underperformed by 3.3 in terms of like underlying numbers. So like 3 goals.
Don't be mentioning XG.
Well, I'm going to mention it anyway because it paints a picture, right, and helps you analyze it. If you don't like it, don't listen. But the moral of the story is, like, he's underperforming in big moments, And how do you manage that as a coach? How do you get the best out of a player who isn't firing at all cylinders? And there's peaks and troughs. No one plays incredibly well 46 games of a season. Think of it as in when you're at work from 5 days a week, you're not 100% every single day at all. You'll have good days, you'll have bad days, and as a manager, you've got to understand, okay, that might not be the best day, but how do you build something to allow them to be really successful over a longer period of time and give them the freedom to do the right things? And for Carrick, it's knowing when to take someone out and when not to take him out. At this moment in time, I think it's best to take him out rather than to keep him in for now. Then again, I'm probably going to say, and just a little bit, that I should probably keep him for Sheffield United because I think it actually suits him more because we play a through ball. They will get in. But for the longer term, I think it's just how do we help him refocus? How do we get him in front of goal, which is he's snapshotting and getting it away and scoring his chances. But he feels like a little bit of a confidence player as well when things don't go right for him. It's like, how long do you want to manage it? But as a manager, for me, I would look at it now and go, this is a big game for you, big moment. There's no pressure on you to be successful, but just remember there is players behind you that are chomping at the bit to get into this squad. I think Marcus Forss can definitely put front. He's the best finisher at the club by a landslide. Tommy Conway is competent in front of goal as well. So there's players around him. They will be in Carrick's ear and saying, well, actually, why am I not in the team now? I'm fit. I'm ready to play. This striker's missing chances. It's dog-eat-dog world in professional football. Yes, you are mates, but at the end of the day, you all want to play. So how long do you want to wait? Because Middlesbrough are underperforming their expected goals by 8 goals already, and it's 10 games in now. Butterfly effect. You're missing 1, you're missing 2, you're missing 3, you're missing 4. Halfway through the season's gone. Middlesbrough underperforming the goals by about, at this current rate, you could be saying underperforming by about 20 plus goals. And imagine that Middlesbrough underperformed by 20 goals in a season. That is a big, big problem. And that's not on Michael Carrick. That's on your forwards and your players getting in the right positions and finishing the chances. You have to be ruthless in this game. And if you're not, you've got to have that standard at that point. But that's for a manager to decide and not for me, I'll say on the podcast to do it. But my 2 cents is I think you manage it within the next 1 or 2 games to replace him. And if he doesn't score in the next couple of games, you have to take him out. He can press well. He's good at pressing, but so can Marcus Forss can run as long as he doesn't break and he's not built like a cheese string anymore. Tommy Conway can press. So there is players that can do it. So he's not the be all end all. He's not the Messiah. You've got to be ruthless at this moment, and I think that's on Carrick to make that decision. But I would say 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do. I think with Conway coming back, obviously he's been injured. Marcus Forss has been injured for a long time. I think if he doesn't score and also misses a similar chance to the one that he does against Bristol City within the next 2 games, I think maybe that then you really, really start to properly consider that. On your point about Latelath underperforming his numbers, and again, we'll preface this by saying we have spent the last 3 seasons at least talking a little bit about XG, and I think it's good to peel the layers back of a football match. He's underperforming it by 2.9, which is the second biggest underperformance, in the Championship behind Elijah Adebayo for Luton. Finn Azaz is 4th, underperforming by 2.4. We've got 3 Boro players actually in the top 10 for underperformance, Isaiah Jones being another one. So it's like, that's why I can't blame Carrick so much, because it's like, yeah, people might not like the style of play. People might think it's ineffective. And right now it is. I don't think that's going to last forever though, because it's ultimately it's on the players for me. It's on the players. They're making mistakes. They're not being ruthless enough in front of goal. Michael Carrick can't put the ball in the back of the net for Emmanuel Latelath. As much as I think he would love to right now, he can't do that. Of course, we'd love to have Michael Carrick as the heartbeat of our midfield. He can't. I mean, maybe he can, but he can't. So it's like, I don't feel like he's responsible for the players making individual errors. I do agree with Tom, and I think it is a good perspective that it can be a symptom of, the style of play. But I think on the whole, our style of play is a net positive. And it's not like in games we play poorly. We just make poor decisions in moments. And that's basically what's led us to these conversations. And I will go into stats further here. Boro have made the most shots in the league this season, the 5th most shots on target, 42 shots on target, about 4 per 90. We have the highest non-penalty XG as well with 1.62. But get this, top for non-penalty XG, but 15th for non-penalty XG per shot. So to simplify that, Boro take lots of shots, but the shots we do take are not of high quality. Take away from XG for a second. In the last few games, what chances can you earmark as should score? Obviously, that's subjective, but personally for me, McGree's shot against West Brom, Ben Doak's against Stoke, which to his credit, he did convert, and then Conway's header against Sunderland. The rest of them are probably more should do better than should score. So, we have shots, so we shot well in expected data, but they're more an accumulation of low quality chances. Having said that, Boro do tend to get at least one decent chance per game. So with added ruthlessness, we would not be having this conversation because you take your chance, the game state completely changes. That game is so different yesterday if one of those early chances is converted. So yeah, Boro are holding themselves back from being a better team because they're not ruthless enough and they're very charitable at the other end. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, I would have said probably tied to the goals, Azaz probably against Watford, and then Latilaf was unfortunate with the header, but I think it was like a bit of a nudge in his back, I think, which made it a bit difficult. But
the header,
anyway,
I don't think that's more on Ogbonna being good and reading that situation. I think the way that Ogbonna gets up for that header, it stops Latilaf from getting the right connection on the ball. Finn Azaz, I get, but to his credit, Watford Luke made a good point where Finn Azaz isn't in that position a lot. So can you maybe lessen the should have scored because of the player? I don't know. I mean, he's a professional footballer at the end of the day, but I don't know. Maybe context matters there. I do agree he should have done better, but I don't know if it should have scored.
yeah, and look, ruthlessness is probably the word, or frustration's the word after like the 10 games in now. We are sitting 9th, and I can feel the frustration from you both just around of where Boro should be. But how are you feeling at the moment about Boro's start so far?
Like I said earlier, bored of it. I was expecting so much more going into this season. And I think for myself, and I know some other fans have spoken to as well, the fact that, we're going into the season, with the squad we've built, we had high expectations for it off the back of last season again. And then once again, slow start. Not as slow as last season, but still slow and still below where we think we should be. Whereas you look at, say, Sunderland, who have gone out and hired a manager no one has ever heard of, clearly done the homework on him. But, I mean, looking at the appointment, he had a fairly poor spell in the later stages of his last club, I believe it was. And, expectations were fairly low from neutrals looking in on him. And then he's done such a good job. And then you look at like when we played Sunderland, the fact that they completely nullified us because they weren't stuck to like a style of play or anything. He's just said, right, nullify them, and then they've ended up nicking a goal up the other end. It's when you look at that, it's just like, why can't we have that? And like, why can't Boro just play the way that we know we can consistently? Why do we always have to start late in the season when it's too late for anything to really be got from it? And it seems like Groundhog Day every season. Like we might sneak into the playoffs and get knocked out in the first round off Coventry. I know are probably in a worse position than us at the moment, but they'll find their way back there and they'll still beat us. Why are we always the ones towards the end of the season going, oh, if we go on a winning run here, we might sneak playoffs when other teams who were arguably behind where we are last season can bring in new managers, have that sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? Discipline and being well drilled enough to get results and get up the table, whereas we are stuck to this style of play, which, don't get me wrong, everyone has enjoyed this style of play, so it would be hypocritical of me to say like, oh, we should change it all now. But we stick to this style of play even when there's something going wrong. For me, the last couple of seasons where we played Brighton in the FA Cup, Chelsea in the League Cup, and we didn't switch anything up, even when it was going drastically wrong, and then that carries over at the league as well. And Carrick will come out afterwards and say, that's our style of play, that's how we want to play, and we want to be better at it and stuff like that. I don't want to hear that. I'd like a manager to just be able to kind of say, this isn't working today, we'll try something else, we'll switch things up. And I feel like that's where maybe we're going wrong in like the early stages of the season until it clicks. Whereas other teams, they'll come in and be well drilled and grind out the points that we're not getting.
On those things, I think it's definitely like an information piece. How much information do you give your team? Or look, players are all different. Some players will want information very simplified and less is more. Some players might prefer to be overly like analysing games, and then from that, you have to strike a balance, and how you manage that could be very individually, or how do you blanket approach it to give enough information for everyone to try and embrace it. You can't really do it with a squad of 25. I feel you've got to really manage it in groups, and from that you can really strike a good balance of giving the right information at the right time. On the adaptability piece, everyone wants to be adaptable in football, but you'll still have the same patterns, I would say, because you can play 3-4-2-1, you can play 4-2-3-1, you can play 4-4-2. All of those different systems will still have those same behaviours in terms of, we want to play in this moment, this area of the pitch, here's where I want to get to in terms of an objective. If I'm coaching a side, my aim is sometimes when I'm like in a drill, where I used to do is like you put the two corners on the wings, and then you would try and get them to play in the middle and then try and spread out wide to get the ball in the box. Obviously the game's changed, but that's 6 or 7 years. But it is different. But you look at the squad that you've got, and you have to understand, how adaptable is this squad going to be? And is it adaptable? I think they are. I think a back three would actually suit Middlesbrough. In certain moments, there's a point I want to come to in a little bit later on where I like to see against Sheffield United. But in terms of the first 10 games, I think adaptability is key, Tom. I definitely think if you can't adapt and you don't have a squad that is adaptable, then you've got a bit of a problem, because you will be a one way of playing team. And then once an opposition team can get in front of you and set up a certain way, you do have problems. So adaptability is definitely key. But you've got individual players that should be able to give you that complexity and flexibility of playing as well. But as far as how I'm feeling for the first 10 games in, there's been some very good moments, some really good moments. I think when I'm looking at West Brom, I'm looking at the Leeds game, I'm looking at the Stoke performance was good, and I'm looking at probably the overall 90% of our players is really positive. Sometimes we're good with the ball, we like to get the ball forward, we get to the box, and that's where it breaks down, and that's where the frustrations come in, because if you are too slow, a squad or a team will get into the box, they'll make it really compact, they'll make it difficult for you, you horseshoe on the box, the play breaks down, then you're overly exposed, you get caught on the counter, you'll make an individual mistake, they'll go and score. That's pretty much Boro's season in probably 10 games, and it's quite telling that it is easy. How you would change that, you could look at a different system, but I think the overall 90% of it is fairly positive. The 10% of what is getting on everyone's nerves is, one, they're not getting the result. If you beat Watford, no one's talking about. Everyone goes, there's a bit of a bump on the road this game. You know, you don't make those individual errors in games, you win the football match. It's all if buts and maybes. Boro and if but and maybe team at the moment. They need to improve on it massively, because if you want to get promoted, you're not going to get promoted right now with the current rate of what we're playing. But it's still very early. I think we can turn it around. I'm confident we can turn it around. I don't think we need to play Johnny Howson. I don't think we need him to come back in the team. I don't think, you know, we need to rip things up and start again. I don't think Michael Carrick needs to beat his chest and start shouting Boro and ripping his top off every time Boro score. Everything is fine. We are in a bad moment. You're forgetting maybe the back end of last season. I think, what was it, 1 defeat in like 10 or something ridiculous? Like, our form was brilliant towards the back end of the season. We've done better year on year in terms of the start. We're much closer to the automatics than we should be. We should really be in there, but we're not. But there's still 36 games to go. There's still a long way to do it. There's still a January window which we can improve on, and Carrick has time to get it right, because we're not going to get relegated, let's be honest. But I think we do need to kick on now, because the standard's very high, because we're putting the expectations on ourselves. And brutally honest, is this squad better than when we got promoted? No, it's not. It really isn't. You know, we had a very, very, very good squad under Karanka. We had a very, very good squad in the 90s, where we had about 5 or 6 strikers to bring on, and they could make the difference under Brian Robson. This squad does not have that added quality yet. There is still a couple of players which I think we still lack. But, you know, we're in that position right now. The Championship's very open. No one's running away from it. It's a long way to go. Happy for the most part, but frustrated that I'm seeing the same game. Anyway, I've ranted for a bit. Dan, I don't know how you're feeling on the 10 games or so.
No, good little rant there, Johnny. I think last season's start is doing this season's start a favour. We're 3 points better off, which isn't great, let's be honest. But because we were so poor at the start of last season, I think it's lifted this season's start up, despite, I think it actually, I don't know whether it's worse in comparison to our opponents, but like, you think about who we've actually faced. Swansea opening day of the season, recently promoted Derby, recently promoted Portsmouth, Cardiff, who are usually crap, and to be fair, we beat them, perennially mid-table Preston, then you had Sunderland, okay, fair, and West Brom, Watford, Bristol City. But that start, like the games against Swansea, okay, we won that. Derby, we lost. Portsmouth, we drew. Preston, we drew. Like, they're teams that if you want to be up there this season, you have to be beating them. So it's like there's potentially an argument to be made based on the opponents, but I don't know to hand like the opponents that we played at the beginning of last season. There's an argument to be made that it's actually a little bit worse considering the opposition that we've played this season. So yeah, but what I will say, I know there was a big discussion there about the style of play. It was only 3 games ago we beat West Brom, and that was a really good performance in which the style really worked against them. And I said after the pod, or after the game on the pod, that that's probably one of the best displays that I've seen under Michael Carrick. So that's why I don't think it's terminal. We can get back to that. This is a bad moment that we're in, but I don't think it's going to last. I think there will be peaks and troughs in the Championship, as there always is, and Boro will probably go on a little bit of a run. But what I will say is that it's frigging frustrating at the moment. So I understand everyone's exasperation and infuriation. Like, I get it completely, but I'm trying to kind of shift the perspective from like my own perspective, because I don't think it's going to be like this like consistently, although it feels like this bout that we're in has been a little bit more than a bout, and that it's lasted forever. But I do think the tide will change and that everything will be rosy soon, I hope.
Middlesbrough lose the next 10 games and Carrick is sacked. Speaking of potentially Carrick being sacked, do you think that he's under pressure now, guys? I know that we touched on it at the start of the show, but is the pressure on Michael Carrick now?
I think they're starting to be. I don't recall the last time I heard boos at the Riverside at half-time and full-time. Which I think is, as I said earlier, like a symptom of when people are starting to get on the manager's back and things aren't necessarily all going 100% right. I saw someone reply to one of our tweets yesterday saying his credit from the first season's ran out now, and I'm starting to agree in a way. Yeah, but I think it's not necessarily by me or like any of us on the pod, but I think that there is pressure starting to build from some fans who are frustrated with the start of this season and think we should be doing better. And for me, we should be doing better.
I agree. You know what? This is a really important period for Carrick now because, as I mentioned at the top of the show, people gave him the benefit of the doubt last season because of all of the injuries that he had to contend with. And in the end, he did well actually getting us to, 8th place or whatever, because of the amount of pushback we had. Like, I don't know, somebody must have walked under several ladders for all those injuries that we had to cope with last season. But he's got a lot of really good options now. The bench for the Bristol City game was incredibly strong. So it's a big test of whether Carrick is actually a good manager or not, I think, the next few games, because he's under a little bit of pressure. Can he bring people that are maybe starting to get a little bit alienated with his style of play and the result back on side? Because the one thing about Carrick, he's very measured and articulate in the press. He's very calm and composed, but rarely does he say anything that's like a headline statement that will get people fully like reinvested in him and his team. So that's why I kind of fear that the more people drop off and question Carrick, I don't feel like they'll ever be pulled back in. And maybe there's a case to be made that once you lose the fans, you lose the fans anyway. It doesn't matter what your personality is like. But for the people that are maybe umming and ahhing about whether Carrick is the right manager, his like kind of media personality, it doesn't lead towards like people coming back in and being like, you know what? Love that, Carrick. Fully believe in you. And, let's go and win the next few games. So it's a very, very important period for him now. And hopefully, because I really like Carrick, by the way, hopefully he can, we can stick through this period, come out the other end. And as I mentioned earlier, everything's all rosy again.
I don't think the headline matters. I don't. I think as a manager and a coach, I think what you try and do is you have the buy-in of the team, of what you're trying to get into, and the squad is what matters. I would say the fan perspective is very emotionally driven. You're the best manager in the world when you win. You're terrible when you lose. If you lose 2, you're the worst thing in the world. If you win 2 in a row, you're the best thing since sliced bread. The emotional roller coaster you are as a fan doesn't resonate with a manager, because a manager has to be measured in his approach. You can't be given an emotional decision based on a defeat. You have to look at it from all different types of information. We don't know the fitness or the health of certain players. We don't really know the day-to-day training. We don't know how things have adapted since, like, certainly a coach has left. Does that play a big impact? Probably not. But we still have good coaches in and around the group. The philosophy is still the same. You're adapting in different ways. And for Carrick, it's more so for him. And it doesn't. Football should never be about headlines anyway. It's the way that the game is changing now anyway. But because you all want to drive the click and the views and all that stuff. But for Carrick, it's just very much, here's where we are. Here's where we want to get to. Yes, I might have to be flexible in my approach. But for the most part, I believe in what I believe in. The players that need to believe in what I believe in, and my vision and how we're going to get there to do that and keep them on board. And the only thing that fans will be bothered about is the result on the Saturday or the Tuesday or the Wednesday. That is all you are bothered about as a fan. You do not care at all who the manager is, what the style of football is, unless you're in a football match. For the most part, anyway. But I remember, like, under Tony Pulis, where I didn't see a shot on target for 6 or 7 games.
Jesus.
So,
Rough
like,
times.
that, yeah, I mean, that's where you kind of, that's where style becomes important. But for the most part, you're not bothered. Like, McLaren's football when I was younger wasn't special. It wasn't fantastic. We had fantastic players, And there's an argument that you could say that we maybe even underachieved in the league at times. Or even with the success. Karanga ball, I remember people booting off that it was too boring sideways, yet we got promoted. You know, there's Neil Warnock ball where it was direct, getting results, but we outgrew this. Outgrew it. Matt Carrick ball, we create plenty of chances. A Boro team or a squad that is renowned not to create many chances and hasn't done for many, many years is now creating plenty of chances, but the team are putting it away. So there's so many different styles that you can look at, but for a manager, has to be measured. For a fan, you are just bothered about results, and that is pretty much it. That dictates your weekend. You pay to see a team win. If they don't, you're pissed off because you've spent your money and you haven't seen something that you've wanted to get. But for the most part, I think Carrick is fine. I think he's doing a good job. Yes, there's still improvements to be made. 90% of it is good. You can be frustrated as much as you like at this moment in time, like we all are. But I think the bigger picture is that we are in a much better place. And there's always going to be a frustration. There's always going to be one thing you don't like at a club. There's always going to be one or two things that you can bone people. That's pretty much life in general. Nothing is going to be perfect at this point. And you shouldn't expect it from your football team because it's the most unpredictable sport in the world. So it's kind of where we're at. But anyway, I don't know if anyone's got anything more to add, but I feel like we should move into podcast questions. Yes, podcast questions. Every week you get the chance to ask us a question via Twitter, Boro_breakdown, or email us, theboroBreakdown@hotmail.com. So the first question then, it's from Stuart, and he says, what's the Boro's best front four? For me, it's McGree on the left, Dork on the right, Azaz in the middle, and Conway up top. Conway and Laff felt like they were shoehorning one into the team for me. Who would like to take this? Is there anyone that has an opinion on the front four? I'm just going to come. You know what, Tom? I'm going to come to you first, and then I'll get my thoughts.
I want to say something controversial here and say I'd actually switch Dork out for Force. Obviously, depending on fitness. This isn't me thinking Force is a right midfielder or a right winger, because I still think he can do a job up front. But my thought here is, as direct as Dork is, as fun as he is to watch, his end product still isn't particularly that great. And we saw, there was an example in front of me yesterday where he switched it back onto his left foot, put a cross in, and it cleared the box and went out to the other side. And I just think that putting McGree and Force back in, two of the key components of that formation and that system that worked so well in the first season, it can solve a bit of an issue in terms of creativity. But then also, I think in terms of the issue that we've got where we don't have enough people in the box to really attack a ball, I think Force could probably be a solution to that, where if we're getting, say, Borges on the overlap from McGree, get a cross in. If it misses Conway, you have Force at the back stick. And it's kind of like a variation of what we had with Stuani under Karanka, where we were playing him on the right and everyone was kicking off about it because he's a striker, he's our top scorer, but he was our top scorer from right wing because he was doing that. For me, that's what I would go with as the best front four. And maybe as the season goes on, Dork is the best option on the right wing. For me at the moment, I just think in terms of his delivery into the box and, you know, chance creation, it's just leaving a little bit to be desired. And although he looks good going forwards, we could do better in that position in terms of the chance creation.
Yeah, he's a player, Ben Dork, that, you know, he's still massively adapting, I would say, into the first team, and people are going to find him out fairly quickly. You have a lot of eyes on you at this point, so he has to chop and change it up. I quite like the Force on the right, Tom. I'm not going to lie, I do like it. I'll come to you, Dana. What would be your front four?
God knows. The only thing that I'll say is that McGree is a dead cert there. He's the only one, really. Azaz potentially is not really a dead cert, but close to it, only because the competition there, I think, is lesser than the other positions. Like Gilbert, I really like Gilbert, by the way, and I really want him to come back. into the fray soon. I know he's been injured, but I think he's really Azaz's competition, isn't he? But I'd probably go McGree. I do like Force on the right-hand side, bit of a goal threat, isn't he? That's what we're missing at the moment. Azaz, and then centre forward. I'm still going to say Latilaf. I'm still going to say it. But I do like Conway, so I want to see more of Conway. If I see more of Conway and I keep liking what I'm seeing from him, then potentially Tommy Conway. Bit harsh. But no, I think Latilaf at the moment.
I can't believe about that harsh video. Good video. Good edit. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
On that, I think my front four would be, I would go Matt Clark up top, Engel on the left,
Fuck off.
Dieng on the right, and Dyke Steele in the middle. I'd go for.
Well, Matt Clark's our joint top scorer, so to be fair,
play with numbers.
you're on to
Direct. Get the ball in the mixer, and hope for the best. I would probably put, for mine would probably be McGree on the left. I would say Azaz in the middle, probably Latilaf, and I quite like that far shout. Tom, it's not a bad shout at all. I do like Ben Doak, though. I think he's been really good so far. But who knows? Let's see. Actually, maybe Force up top, Conway in the middle, McGree on the left. Why don't we just put Latilaf right on the right? Just take what the fire line.
You know what? Just put all the strikers on. Latilaf up front, Conway right wing, Bergzorg left wing. Let's just go for it. All passion.
Let's just do vibes and go for that. Just if you're a striker, you're on. Next question though, it says, whilst we're enjoying these current 15 minutes about an injury crisis, should any of the current 11 position as automatic starters be reviewed? Dana, would you like to take this one?
Well, we've already reviewed Latilaf, I guess, so I suppose he's the natural answer, even though I said I'd stick with him. Hamilton is the obvious one as well, because McGree, I'm just going based on the Bristol City game, by the way, in case that wasn't clear. McGree is definitely a starter on that left-hand side. With Force back, Doak potentially should be reviewed, but I don't know. Other than that, you mentioned Edmondson earlier, Tom. I think Edmondson's there on merit, to be honest. I think he's been really good, although I do like Matt Clark. So, yeah, the obvious one, I suppose, is Latilaf and Hamilton.
Yeah, Dyke Steele maybe come back in for Aylan, but I think Aylan's been fine.
I think Aylan's been fine. Yeah, I think Aylan's been fine.
Not massively upset with it. He's just been.
I think it's 6 and 2 threes with both of those. To be honest, you're not getting a huge upgrade with Dyke Steele, nor you're getting a huge downgrade with him either.
No, 100%. And then your midfield two of Hackney and Morris, I think, have just been
good.
Yeah, so you don't drop them, do you? Then goalkeeper wise, Dieng, I thought, Bryn wasn't that great against Stoke, but he has been good in previous seasons for different teams. Glover hasn't really had much of a look in until Dieng was away and in national duty. So you've got rotations, but I think every position can potentially be reviewed. I think apart from your midfield too, to be honest, I think they're pretty much a really good duo. Anyway, next question is from Dasbit and says, should Bergzorg get an opportunity down the left? Thought he was a bit more direct than Hamilton. I'm probably going to say, by look at your guys' faces, no, McGree should be there. So let's move on. And then the next one.
Can I just say on Hamilton, I'm not going to be gaslighting and thinking he's been anything other than all right. Like, he's very forward thinking, but sideways doing. Like, I don't know why he has to scale one corner of the 18-yard box to get to the other corner of the 18-yard box before he does anything. So yeah, McGree gets in. I do think anyone that plays that left side is going to be a victim of not being Riley McGree, because I really like Riley McGree.
It's like any left back that plays in that position is going to get exposed because it's a 2v1 on that right hand side for the most part of a game. Try defending two players when you are one person. It is very difficult. And then the final question then, it's from Rob, and he says, should we reevaluate our season prediction? Do you want to reevaluate it, or are you happy with your current thoughts? I can't remember what I said. I think I said 5th or 6th, I think I said.
I feel like I was more optimistic, so I probably would reevaluate it and go with 5th or 6th. I'm going for the same trend as we saw last season. We'll click in like March, April, but we will actually get in this time.
Okay,
What did I say? I think I might have said 4th, maybe. I'm going to bump it down to, it's either 5th, 6th, or 7th. And that's very indecisive, but it's difficult to kind of land on one right now, given that we're in a bad period. And by bad period, I mean back-to-back defeats, because let's be honest, really wasn't that long ago we beat West Brom. But I would probably say, because the Championship's a bit more open than it usually is this season, I'm going to go 6th. I'm going to land on 6th.
Okay, then. Well, I'm just going to stick with my prediction. I think I said 5th or 6th, I think. So I'm just going to stick with that. Anyway, let's move on to trivia time now. I absolutely love this part of the show, and I've got a question for you for this week, and it is, hopefully get your pens and paper at the ready. It's how many ham sandwiches would it take for me to look like Chris Wilder? So that's a question of the day.
I love that one.
The real question is,
Wilder.
I know it's going to be a frosty reception definitely on Wednesday night. But anyway, my real question is, who am I? I played for Doncaster, Sheffield United, Leeds, Benfica, Middlesbrough, Leeds, Leicester, West Ham, and made 3 caps for England. So who am I? Your timer starts now. Time is up. Okay, then. So how many ham sandwiches would it take for me to look like Chris Wilder?
42.
42. It was very close. I was going to say 41. But I'm lucky there, Tom. But the real question is, who am I? I played for Doncaster, Sheffield United, Leeds, Benfica, Middlesbrough, Leicester, West Ham, and made 3 caps for England. I did play for the clubs, some clubs on there a couple of times as well. So who am I? Then, Tom, would you go first?
I have gone with Danny Mills. And that is only because I remember we didn't sign him after we had him on loan. I feel like he might have just gone back to Leeds before he went on to anywhere else. And I don't feel like he made that many caps for England, but I do remember him playing for England.
Okay, then. And then, Dana, who are you going to go for?
That famous player called? Don't know. I don't have a Scooby, mate. I don't have a clue.
So, don't know.
If this is before my time,
if this is
before my time, I'm going to get you, Johnny Bullock.
Well, it is a little bit, to be fair. So, don't know. Did used to play for Sheffield United and Leeds. At one point, never played for Middlesbrough. But the answer to the question is Brian Dean. Brian Dean played for all of those clubs and made 3 caps for England. So congratulations to you, Brian. You are the winner of the trivia this week. But now let's look.
I need a pick.
Yeah, Benfica. He was a good player with Brian Dean back in the day. But let's look ahead. While Dana is looking ahead, he looks so confused. Anyway, let's chat about Sheffield. Let's look at Sheffield United. We spoke to Ollie from Sheff United Way to get some insight on Chris Wilder's Sheffield United this season.
Hiya guys, so what does this look like for United ahead of the game on Wednesday? Well, in terms of injuries, we're actually doing okay. Tom Davies is out on a long-term injury and we all want him back as soon as possible. But beyond that, we actually are okay. We've not had any other serious injuries. Nobody else out of our key men has really missed even a minute so far this season through injury, more just through rotation and rest. We made changes on Friday night, so when we went to Leeds away, we actually just tried to play their game rather than just sticking true and playing our own. We adapted our system, we went back to playing a familiar 5 at the back that people maybe associate with United, but that we haven't played so far this season. It did not work against Leeds. We tried to double up on their wingers, and they cut through us with ease anyway. It also really neutralised any attacking threat that we could have had. We couldn't get Kiefer Moore in the game, we couldn't create chances, and we couldn't hurt Leeds at all. So Yeah, that was really disappointing. So if you watch this on Friday, that's not what we've been like for the majority of the season, but it was indeed a very disappointing performance. I expect for this one, we'll go back to what we know. So what we've done so far this season is a 4-2-3-1, and I expect us to stick with that going forward. So for this one, our team, it's probably going to be Michael Cooper in net. I expect Alfie Gilchrist to come back in at right back. The partnership of Suter and Ahmed Odzic has been fantastic. Leeds was the first game that they've played together and conceded a goal in, and that's through, I think, 7 games that they played together before that. At left back, it'll be Harrison Burrows. Now, we've got a gap in our midfield because Vinny Souza is suspended. So I think it'll be Ollie Arblaster who will continue. Fantastic player, huge talent, and he's probably destined to play higher than the Championship. But next to him, we've got 2 choices. It'll either be Siddy Peck, another young player who comes from the academy, or Gus Harmer will drop back in. He's been playing attacking left wing. We could bring him back into the centre where he's more comfortable. I would do that. So I'd play Arblaster next to Harmer. I'd have O'Hare in front of them in the 10. Jezza and Raksake will come back in on the right wing, and I would put Andre Brooks in on the left wing. It would be the first time this season that we've used 2 proper wingers, so we'll see whether or not that's something that Wilder would be interested in. Up front, we've had difficulties. We're not scoring the goals we need, and Kiefer Moore is not getting himself involved in attacking areas enough. But he is really important in terms of linking the play, giving us an outlet ball and being able to hold the ball up and wait for players to come and play with him. And when your deputy is Ryan Brewster, you always have to play if you're the first choice, because nobody wants to be making that change. It's been a great start to the season from United. We've only lost 1 game. We were the last team in the EFL to lose this season, and of course that came on Friday night. We sit 4th. We've had a -2, and so it's been a really excellent first 10 games. We've just got to try and keep that going. Hopefully we can get a good result on Wednesday. My prediction is going to be 1-1. That's where I think this game ends. I think both teams would probably be quite happy with that, because I know that Boro are so much better than the results they've had so far. Check the underlying data, and you see that Saye Dieng's got the 2nd worst save percentage in the league. You see that Boro are top for XG, but they're 8 underneath it in terms of actual goals scored, and you think at some point that has probably got to turn. I'm just praying that doesn't turn on Wednesday and that we can get a positive result and really just come back from that disappointment against Leeds, but also over just a tragic last 2 or 3 weeks for United following the death of George Baldock. It's been really hard. It's hit the club like a train, and we've got to hope that on the pitch we can react and start to get a little bit of momentum going to make the fans feel a little bit better, because, yeah, it really has been pretty tough. So let's hope for a positive result. I think 1-1's fair, but I hope we win.
Thank you very much for that, Ollie. Me and Ollie had a great video a couple of years ago. We were on the League of 72, and I said we'd get promoted, and we never. But yeah, really good to have him back on. And then just in terms of Sheffield United as well, I think you alluded to it there. They did change the system in the last game against Leeds, moved to a back 5, but normally they are playing a 4-2-3-1 in that set. In possession, they do try and play that 3-2-5 in terms of system, and the wing back will actually go towards wherever the ball is. They will push up to a winger, and then that winger will come inside to be more of a central player, and that's how we'll try and set up to force that 2v1. They are more favoured on that right-hand side, so there's Neto Borges getting probably rinsed, but how would you overcome that is a 3v2 on that side of things as well. I had a quick look at the goal kicks as well. I thought it was really interesting. They do try and set up to look to play out from the back, but they actually rarely do. Michael Cooper will look to play the ball long and aim for Kiefer Moore as the centre forward and try and win that second ball because they're much higher up on the pitch. When they do play it short, it's all about getting the ball to the wing back and then hitting it long, direct to the centre forward to try and get that play in there as well. In terms of out of possession as well, I had a quick look at the shape, and they're looking like to be in a 4-4-2, 4-3-3. And they're quite aggressive in the press. I'm not surprised to see them in a man mark in certain areas of the pitch, but I think that is quite an interesting ploy for the Wednesday game. In terms of Boro then, I had a quick think of how I would look to approach this a little bit, to be honest. And I wouldn't be shocked if Boro moved to a back 3. And if they didn't move to a back 3, I would quite like to see us in possession move to a back 3 with one of the midfielders dropping in the centre-half position, creating a bit of space, and cause some uncertainty in terms of the press. Because if you are playing a man-marking system, it creates a bigger space in the middle. Boro like to play through a lot more. They have more bodies in the middle as well at times. And that'll be getting behind as well and try and play that through ball, which is a big weakness of Sheffield United because they are quite slow when you are looking at the centre-backs that they have. In terms of how they're playing, they are very expansive. So you'll probably get something from out the match where you may see, well, Sheffield United play with a lot of width, and they do. You've seen a Chris Wilder team play. They are very similar, although they are in a different shape. They do like to play with wingers, play those 1-2 and get in behind, get the ball in the box for the centre forward, which Keith Moore will thrive in, but he is quite not very as athletic than he probably should be in terms of if you are wanting to press from the front. The press does come from different areas of the pitch. And I think that key battle is that right-hand side, to be honest. If Boro can nullify that, if they're able to play through the middle and compact the midfield, I think they will find it quite difficult. And given they are so expansive, that transition and the counter is probably in Boro's hands, to be honest. If you are to nullify that midfield, I think you'll have some joy in trying to get that through ball, which is probably the reason why I probably wouldn't drop Manuel laugh for this game, because I think he makes some good runs, but he does need to score this game. If he does not score from a big chance, I will be very, very annoyed. But yeah, I thought it was a little bit interesting to have a quick look at them. Very Chris Wilder type side. Hasn't really hasn't changed too much since he's left Middlesbrough. There's just that set shape of 4-2-3-1, but it definitely quickly becomes a 3 when they are in possession as well. But guys, predictions. How are we feeling about this one then on Wednesday night? Win, lose, draw, match abandoned, match not to be played, postponed, loads of snow. Dana, what are you going to go for?
COVID outbreak. 2-0 Boro. I think I love Boro playing at the Riverside under the lights, and I think that against Chris Wilder, who will no doubt get a bad reception, and quite rightly, from the Boro fans after he was, to put it politely, a football slag, then I think this will be a game to really kind of ignite, hopefully, our season. So yeah, I think 2-0, going to be tough, good team. And I will concede Chris Wilder is a good manager, but I think Boro will get the job done, and it will be one of those good nights at the Riverside.
I'm going 2-0 as well. Then on my prediction videos for Ollie and for Jimmy at Blades Rumble as well, I've said 2-0, but I'm not too sure either way. I think it's a game where whoever scores first, we've seen if we score first, it's a very Chris Wilder way of let's just truck every strike one and lose shape and hope for it, and then we concede towards the end. If it's the other way, I think we'll make the mistakes and they'll punish us and be same old of what we've seen the last 10 games. And then Tom, what are you going to predict for the game?
I'm going 2-1. I think we can win it. I think they're a team who are going to come to the Riverside and want to play football, which works better for us. We've seen this season. So yeah, I'm going to back us to put a quick end to this bad run of form and get a result on Wednesday.
Okay then. Well, guys, that's it. Thank you very much for joining me as always. And to listeners and viewers, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe on your podcast provider and on YouTube. Help us get found. And also don't forget to share this podcast wherever you are. But for right now, this has been the Boro Breakdown podcast. This is the first episode that we've had a breakdown. But that was over a match day chat in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.